let's talk about diabetes. You hear that word a lot, right? But it's so much more than just a health issue. It's this, well, silent epidemic that's kind of reshaping our world. So in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on this global challenge. We'll break down what it is, how it works, and maybe most importantly, what we can actually do about it. Okay, let's dive in.
First up, let's just try to get our heads around the sheer scale of this. Right now, nearly 590 million adults are living with diabetes. I mean, to put that into perspective, that's like every single person in the United States, Canada, and Mexico combined, all having the same condition. And get this, that number, it's climbing, and it's climbing fast.
But here's the stat that's, well, it's honestly pretty scary. For every single person who knows they have diabetes, there's another person walking around who has no idea. 1 in 2. Yeah, you heard that right. That's 240 million people completely in the dark, while this silent disease could be doing real damage to their body from the inside out. And why? Well, because in the early stages, you often don't feel a single thing.
And the fallout from this isn't just physical, not by a long shot. For the very first time, the annual global healthcare bill for diabetes has blown past $1 trillion. We're talking about a financial tsunami that's putting immense pressure on healthcare systems and even threatening economic stability all around the world.
So how in the world did we get here? Well, to really understand the crisis, we have to understand the disease itself. And here's the first thing you absolutely have to know. Diabetes isn't just one thing. It's more of an umbrella term. And if we're going to get a handle on it, we need to know who the main players are under that umbrella.
So take a look at this. While there are a few different types, one of them just completely dominates the picture. Over 90% of all diabetes cases in the entire world are type 2. This is the main engine that's driving this global epidemic, and so it's what we're really going to focus on.
Okay, so let's do a quick side-by-side of the main forms. You can think of type 1 as a case of mistaken identity, right? The body's own immune system basically attacks and destroys its insulin-making cells. Type 2, which we just talked about, is more like a communication breakdown. The body's cells just stop listening to insulin's message. And then there's gestational diabetes, which is a temporary version that can show up during pregnancy.
So let's really zoom in on that communication breakdown that happens in type 2. You can almost picture its development as a kind of slow-motion car crash. A really gradual breakdown in the body's super intricate system for managing its own fuel.
All right, the absolute core of the problem is something called insulin resistance. So here's how to think about it. Imagine your cells are all little houses, and glucose, that's your body's fuel, is the delivery person trying to bring energy inside. Well, insulin is the key that unlocks the door to each house. With insulin resistance, the locks on all the doors start to get rusty and jammed. The key just doesn't work very well anymore, so all that glucose can't get inside and it starts piling up outside, in your bloodstream.
And here's the really unsettling part. This doesn't just happen overnight. For 10, maybe even 15 years, your body is fighting this losing battle, and you probably won't feel a thing. Your pancreas is just going into overdrive, making more and more insulin, more and more keys, to try and force those rusty locks open. But eventually, it just gets exhausted. It can't keep up. And that's the moment when the sugar in your blood finally gets high enough for a doctor to say, you have type 2 diabetes.
So what's actually causing all these locks to get so rusty in the first place? Well, if you zoom way down to the cellular level, scientists have pinpointed a few main culprits. You've got fat building up where it really shouldn't be, you've got this low-grade chronic inflammation, and then you have these two things called oxidative and ER stress. The easiest way to think about it is oxidative stress is kind of like rust forming inside your cells, and ER stress is like a constant traffic jam in your cell's little internal factories. Both of them just gum up the works.
So what happens when all that sugar, all that glucose is just stuck floating around in your blood? Well, it causes some really serious problems. See, high blood sugar acts like this sticky, sugary coating that slowly hardens on the inside of your blood vessels. It makes them brittle, inflamed, and super easy to damage. And this sets off a huge cascade of complications that just ripples through your entire body.
And this damage, it's like it's fighting a two-front war on your body. On one front, it attacks all the tiny, delicate blood vessels, what we call the microvasculature. That can lead to blindness, kidney failure, and nerve damage. And on the other front, it goes after the big guns, the major arteries, the macrovasculature, that are feeding blood to your heart, your brain, and your legs.
And I want to be crystal clear about just how serious that second front is. The bottom line is this: cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of people with diabetes, period. Full stop. Having diabetes more than doubles your risk of dying from a heart attack or a stroke.
Okay, so that's the problem. And I know,
It sounds pretty grim. But here's where the story takes a turn. This is not a death sentence. There is an incredibly powerful weapon in this fight, and it's something every single one of us has control over: the food we eat. This is about rewriting the rules of the game.
Okay, so where do you even begin? Right here. And folks, this is a total game changer. It's called the diabetes plate method, and it's just a simple visual way to take all the complicated guesswork out of eating healthy. Just look at your plate. Fill half of it with non-starchy veggies. We're talking salad, broccoli, peppers, you name it. Then fill 1/4 with a lean protein, like chicken or fish or beans. And that last quarter, that's for quality carbs, like some quinoa or a small sweet potato. It's really that simple.
And, what you don't eat is just as important as what you do. We're talking about kicking those sugary sodas and juices to the curb, steering clear of those ultra-processed snacks that come in a box, swapping out refined carbs like white bread for whole grain versions, and avoiding those artificial trans fats. Just reducing these things can make a huge, huge difference.
But look, managing the disease is one thing. What if we could stop it before it even gets started? What if we could completely rewrite the future for millions and millions of people? Well, you know what? The scientists screaming, yes, we absolutely can.
So just how powerful is prevention? Well, some huge landmark clinical trials give us this incredible number. For people who are at a high risk, making intensive lifestyle changes can slash their odds of developing type 2 diabetes by 58%. Let that sink in for a second. That isn't a small tweak. That is a massive, life-altering impact. That is the power of prevention.
So what does it take? Well, the formula, it's not some big secret. It boils down to 3 totally achievable steps. Number 1, aim for a modest 5 to 7% weight loss. Number 2, get at least 150 minutes of moderate exercise, like a brisk walk, every week. And number 3, adopt that healthy, high-fiber way of eating we just talked about. These are the steps that can put you back in control.
So, we've walked through the whole thing, right? The staggering scale of this challenge, the cellular breakdown happening inside the body, and the devastating consequences it can have. But we've also seen this incredible science-backed power that we have to change that story. So it all comes down to this one question. Knowing everything we know now, what is one small change you can make starting today?